Hi, MaryAnn. Welcome to the High Vibration Living Podcast.
Hi, Whitney. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's such a treat for me. I'm a junior medium, so I'm a health supportive chef, but I've also taken many mediumship classes, and I went through a phase for quite a few years where I did a class every week with my mediumship teacher in person. I offered readings, and it really helped me better be able to serve in my career as a chef and someone that works to nourish people through food. When you can connect with people and see what's going on with them beyond their own walls that they put up. And you're also able to do readings for people to connect with their loved ones and kind of see where their wounds are. It really helps you be able to cook at a deeper level or nourish at a deeper level for someone. I've stepped away from this work because there's more talented people out there like you, and just use it as like a tool for myself when I need it for myself and family. But this is, I think, one of my favorite topics to dive into. I think it is like the secret sauce. It's one of those tools everyone needs to have a practitioner in their tool belt that they can reach out to once, twice a year, even more, when they kind of hit roadblocks in life. I'd love to know what you think and how it's supported you and clients over the years, the work of mediumship and how it's supposed to be serving us on the planet right now.
Well, first of all, well done taking classes and learning how to do the techniques of mediumship and psychic mediumship, because it's very important to know what you're doing, especially if we're delivering message over to others. There's a lot of responsibility that comes along with that. And so I love that you took your classes, learned your craft, and understood how to do it in a way that is productive and helpful for yourself and for others. Doing mediumship and psychic mediumship is just amazing. It's one of the biggest gifts that have been given to me from the universe. I've always known that I was psychic ever since I was a little girl. My mom really cultivated that. I grew up in a household of, psychics coming in and out, and it was never unusual for me. So when I stepped into this work, I had to not only understand how I was delivering message for others, but the bigger picture of learning how to do it for myself was something that started to lay within me on many deep levels. It was something that I couldn't really grasp initially because I was so into pleasing the person that I was sitting with and making sure that I was doing the technique right. But I soon realized that I'd been doing it my whole life, that I had been leaning into these abilities, and I just wasn't aware that that's what I was doing to understand my own path in life. And through my job of doing this now for probably 17 years, I guess, starting off giving readings for others and their loved ones and all of that, it has now grown into me helping others cultivate their own abilities, understanding their own. We're all psychic. Every single one of us is psychic. And how can we tap into those psychic abilities in our own unique way to help us understand our soul path and why we came here and what we came here to learn, most importantly?
Yes, exactly. How do you think, you're a mother, how can parents better cultivate and help their children develop, strengthen, or just simply be comfortable with their natural gifts and abilities, especially those psychic ones when they're little kids?
I could really go by what my mom did. My mom made it very normal. She didn't try to explain it away. She didn't force it either down my throat. She presented ideas that she was comfortable with, but she allowed me to accept what I was comfortable with in my own belief system. And when I heard my own children start to talk about their experiences, again, I did the same. Now, here their mom is a psychic medium. And I didn't say, oh, well, you're channeling and this is what this means. I let them do the speaking. I let them do the talking. And if they wanted my advice on what I thought they were experiencing, I'd certainly lend it. But for the most part, I wanted them to cultivate their own storyline and their own type of spiritual practice that works for them. And it seems to have worked. What it allowed, I think, was for fear to kind of be set to the side with all of this, and the normalcy of it just being part of who we are as human beings and souls here to take over instead of the fear.
Is there an age that you've noticed where we start to close down and those gifts and that natural channeling starts to slow down?
The more experience we start to get in life, I
Mm-hmm.
think the more the abilities can shut down. The more that we start to pay attention to what others think of us instead of what we know to be true within ourselves, the more we start to own storylines that do not suit us. And when we could start to figure out that that's what's taken place, usually, well, for me, I can only speak for me because I think it's very individual depending on what you've experienced. But I think around probably 13, 14 years old, I started to go through a time in my life that was pretty stressful. And I started to listen to what the people were saying around me, whether it was, boys or my family, my parents were getting divorced, and I started to just own these other labels, and I really didn't want to hear it. I knew it was in the background, but I don't think I used it in a way that could have been far more beneficial to me in my teen years, for sure. And it wasn't until I went through some of these experiences, a lot of people will call it a spiritual awakening, where you kind of have an unraveling in your life, that I was directed to start to listen to it again. So when I was in my 30s, I wound up getting divorced, took me by surprise, and I was directed to a spiritual teacher. And I quite automatically said to her, I think I'm supposed to see you now, because I knew right then and there that it was time to wake up again. So I think it just depends on your own experiences in life and what can shut you down. Grief can shut people down. Trauma can shut people down. There are really deep areas that aren't just about other people's opinions and judgment of us that can kind of take hold.
And you bring up something I think really important that we all need to talk about more these days, especially teachers like you, divine timing. There's all this conversation about manifest, manifest, manifest. And then there is something about divine timing, that doors aren't supposed to open for you in certain directions until other things are aligned. What have you learned just personally and as a teacher and a medium about divine timing?
Divine timing is probably one of the hardest things to accept because we
It
are
is.
an instant gratification society, right? We're so
Yeah.
used to everything right at our fingertips, or being able to chase things down and maybe seeing them happen. What I learned is that when you can lean into deep spaces of trust with the universe, with our guides, our universal team on that other side that are trying to help us, I write about them, you then can see the magic in divine timing. You start to understand that when we manifest, we want to dream big. Put all of the ideas out there, write them down on paper, meditate on them, whatever your spiritual practice is, speak them into existence, do it, but set it and forget it. Let them reside in your manifestation box. Allow them to be there. The universe has heard you. And then the trick of all of it is, the magic is to come back right to the now, because the universe is going to show you the breadcrumbs that you need to follow in order to get there. They're also going to help redirect you if you're not supposed to be where you think you're trying to be. And why miss all the steps in between? The steps in between are one of the most powerful things that you can learn and understand in real time. So they're showing you exactly what you need to do. And when something doesn't work out, say thank you. You can be disappointed by all. I am a person who feel your feels. We're not going to spiritualize our way out of our feelings. Feel your feels, but then hopefully you lean into a sense of gratitude because you're being protected and you're being shown something better. And this has happened to me countless times, where I've dealt with disappointment and I thought this was going to work out. And spirit's like, we have something better. Just chill.
So when someone's booking a one-on-one session with you or any medium, and they're asking for their grandmother or their mom or a loved one to come through and give them advice or share with them why this thing isn't happening, um, are there are there certain questions we need to be asking them to help them, our family on the other side, give us clarity about why things aren't coming through for us, or how should we be dreaming bigger, or what we should be doing in our personal life to make those things happen?
Such a great question, because it talks about the expectations of a reading. And I love that you
Mm.
asked me this question. When you go to a psychic medium, any psychic medium, you must remember too, we all have different styles. So I'm going to tell you just from my style of it. I don't want
Yeah.
you to ask me any questions until the end. So for me, what I say to somebody is when I was doing readings, I don't do straight up psychic mediums anymore, but when I was readings, I would say to the person, try not to get fixated on one person or one thing and hold your questions until the end. I promise I'll give you time to ask me the questions towards the end. The reason why I do that is because it is up to spirit as to what is going to be said. When you come in with an agenda, you very well may miss what spirit thinks you need to hear. So my suggestion is wait to ask your questions, or ask your psychic if you can ask those questions later on, and try to just surrender over to the experience and let the psychic medium do their job. And when they're doing their job, they're going to deliver messages from the greater good for the higher good of all concerned. The messages should feel productive and not scary. They should serve. I always say we deliver with care, concern, and compassion. Is this going to serve you? The second half of that, though, is that our loved ones most likely are not going to give clear direction. They're going to highlight to you what you already know to be true. It is up to us to take the steps in the right or in the more challenging direction. So they're not really meant to do that. That is not, do I think sometimes they can affirm and validate for you? Yes. So let's say for argument's sake, you're thinking about selling your house. And I say to you, I can see that there's a house sale going on, and I can see that you're nervous about it. And your mom's in the room and they might say, or grandmom's in the room might saying, it feels good. And you say, well, you know what? I have been feeling good about it. All they're doing is confirming what you already know to be true. Loved ones. Guides, on the other hand, spirit guides, for the sake of discernment, I'm just making the difference. Yeah. They are more directive. But again, they're confirming what you all, it's like they're calling you out on your stuff. And they're usually confirming what is already going on in your mind. Yes, as a psychic, however, we can be prophetic in that we could say to you, in 2 years, I feel like you're going to have a lot of move and change around your job, and there's tremendous growth. And I can see, actually, this information is for you, Whitney, if you don't mind. I don't know if you want this on air. No. Is that okay? All right. Yeah. All right. I just want to make sure that you're open to it. So we should always ask permission whether we should read somebody, guys. Just don't go diving in all on your own. But within 2 years, the spotlight on you starts to grow even more and more. And you're going to get into deeper conversations about your own healing and what you've been through. And you're not going to be afraid to do it. That fear to step into that spotlight, I could see you doing a TED Talk. That fear of, well, something like a TED Talk. That fear of that is going to be no longer. Now, the time frame, maybe within the next 2 years. I very rarely do that. Because we want to trust divine timing. However, it's an opportunity for you to set that manifestation in place, let it go, believe it to be true, surrender over that it is truth, and allow yourself to work on taking the steps in order to get there. So that's how a reading for me works. Yes, it's loved ones coming in. And usually with loved ones, you want to hear the validation of some evidential things. Maybe it's a name, how they passed. It could be a month, a date, something about them that is very unique. But what I find loved ones do most miraculously is to describe certain situations and storylines that are going on in people's lives, that they are still part of our life. And so that's why I want you to allow yourself to surrender over to the psychic and let them do their job, because what comes through is just so much more than what can pop off your questions on your page. Just let them just riff for a moment and then ask. Mm-hmm.
Let them flow, listen.
Let them flow. Because spirit knows. Exactly, Whitney, because it's not me doing it. They're in charge. I'm just the conduit. I'm just letting them do their job. I'm translating. I'm in on it. I'm helping. But for the most part, I'm here to say whatever it is they want me to say. And my job is to really not filter that all too much. It's just to kind of lay it out there and say whatever crazy thing comes out of my mouth. And honestly, it keeps my job very interesting. It never ceases to amaze me what they can do. It's unbelievable.
So if you think about the future of consciousness, you think about the future of our culture and our society, you look at how far we've come in being able to have open conversations about these type of topics. How do you see us using mediums in the future? Should we be doing quarterly check-ins with our guides and our loved ones who have passed? Is it a once a year thing? Is it only for specific things when you need guidance for family evolution? I'd love to know your thoughts. How are we going to be using this, eternal skill that people have in the future.
My hope is that you have a wonderful experience with a psychic medium, a healer, any type of seer that you feel drawn to go to. And that you, off of that experience, that you yourself go and learn how to do it for yourself. I always say when I teach my courses, I'm not the guru. I'm here to highlight what I know to be true and hopefully what you know to be true in yourself so that you yourself can go and do the job, and you don't need a psychic medium in order to do that. When I was reading years ago, I would tell people, I'll see you in a year, because I thought, because they would say, well, can I come back next month? And I'd say, well, no, go take what they told you. And I started to see how intoxicating it could be. And I call it kind of like psychic canvassing, where people kind of go like from psychic to psychic so that they can hear what it is that they want. And I think that's really dangerous. I actually think it can be addictive, and I don't encourage it. I recently saw an article about psychics becoming like the new therapist. And I also feel like we have to be very careful how we use these words, that maybe psychics can lead you to the modalities that you need in order to help you heal. And that's my hope, that psychics are giving people the tools that they need, not the answers. The expectation of the answers is something that I think can be detrimental in time, that we need to rely on our own intuitive abilities, that we have them. And so for the bigger consciousness, I think that that's what we're starting to see, a craving and a bigger awakening going on, that people are kind of starting to realize that there's something within themselves. It could be sort of uncomfortable initially, and you might not know what to do with it. And my hope is that they will go to people like myself who are teaching so that they can understand how to finally put all the pieces together and find out their soul story on their own.
So for those that are listening or watching and they see you, and I feel like this is what happened to me, is like you will see or hear the name of a teacher and you're like, that's my person. She's the one that's supposed to, she's the doorkeeper. She has the keys. I'm supposed to study and learn from her. So for those that are like, all right, it's time. I need to learn the skill for myself. I don't know how I'm going to use it, but I need to learn the skill for myself. What's the amount of hours people can expect that they need to put in every week in order to strengthen this muscle and build this skill?
Such a good question. It's, again, I always tell people, make your practice authentically you, whatever works for you. If you want to wake up every morning and go into a deep meditation where you sit with your guides and then you do an automatic writing where we're directly writing from spirit afterward, and then you, do a crystal ceremony and you've got like a good 2 hours in the morning, if that suits your lifestyle and suits who you are, go right ahead and do that. If you can fit in a 45-minute walk, blasting tunes in your ears, and that brings you to a spiritual calm space and that's your jam, and you do that twice a week and that's pretty much all you can do, great. If you find spaces where you can express gratitude, every morning I express gratitude. That's one of my most consistent things that I can do. And so every morning, and I live and breathe this work, right? So for me, I don't want to go too deep outside of my job, right? So I kind of want it to be a little lighter every so often. My advice is do what you feel called to do, but do it consistently. And also recognize your daily life as spiritual practice. If you are a parent and you are taking care of especially young children, if you are a caretaker of parents, if you are a person who does a lot of service in your community, or you find that in your job you are helping others, how are we looking at our own lives? Are we looking at it as something spiritual? Because it is. And I think a lot of people miss that. I'll hear a lot of people say to me, oh, I didn't get to my spiritual practice the last 2 weeks and I'm so upset about it. I'm falling off the spiritual wagon, sort of a thing. And then I'll ask them what they did. And then I hear, especially moms, I'll hear them say, well, I took care of my 2 children. Both had viruses at the same time. I had to run my husband to the dentist or my spouse to the dentist or whatever it is. And so I'm like, so you were a healer this week. You nourished people this week. Did you do any self-care? Well, I was able to go, right, I don't know, maybe I had like 10 minutes where I just took a longer shower without little hands coming out from under the door. I remember being in that. Well, okay, so you got some self-care. Were you able to do any deep breathing this week? Well, no, I felt like I was holding my breath. Well, maybe that could have been something simple that you could have done for yourself in the midst of kind of a chaotic week. But what is our perception of what all this looks like? And I think the expectation is really high for a lot of people because of what we see on social media. But let's bring it back to a grounded level, and that should help.
So what are the foods that we should be considering when we step into this work to grow and strengthen that mediumship muscle? Are there foods that we need to take out of our life to make us a more clear channel? Or is that kind of the false narrative that people are reading online?
Depends. My little Italian American heart can't take taking out. I mean, I love to eat. So, I don't know. I could tell you making things that feel, for me, cooking is a loving act.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Feeding people is a loving act. So it's very spiritual. When I'm making a Sunday sauce that my great grandmother used to make, and that brings joy to me, and then to be able to share that with my family, I feel like that's very spiritual. Is the pasta and the meatballs and all the things that go along with it the most healthy? Maybe not all the time, but it does. So on that level, are you having food experiences that are bringing you joy? I think that's very important. Of course, everything in moderation, right? However, when you are doing psychic medium work and healer work, especially as a job, yes, you do have to be aware of what you are putting in your body. And for me, again, I can only speak for me because it's very personal. I have to say with anti-inflammatory foods, my body reacts very differently than it used to. And I mean, it's also age, but it's definitely the psychic medium stuff because it's been going on a while. Alcohol is tough as well. I'm not a big drinker, but I cannot consume a lot of alcohol, period. And that's been going on for the last 15 or 16 years, however long I've been reading. And I remember my teacher saying it to me at the time. She's like, you're probably not going to like alcohol as much as you used to. And that's kind of sad sometimes because I like to enjoy some wine. It's a little sad, but it works.
Is.
And it is. I was like, well, I kind of enjoy it.
I totally understand. And unless you've experienced it, when you try to explain it to people, they don't understand. And you're like, no, really, like
it's a thing.
I'm not going to be able to operate for a few days if I indulge.
Yeah, it's true. And so you do have to have, because you need some sustainability. Remember, we are expelling our chi, we're kind of putting it out there. And so we want to replenish. So hydration, moving your body, all of these things are very important as, not only as a medium, but just in general. These are our vessels and they don't lie. So I encourage people, no matter what work you're doing, intuitively, if you want to intuitively be in connection with your body, listen to your body. I talk to my body a lot. I'll speak to my bloodstream. If I have something going on physically, I'll talk to those areas and send healing light into those areas. So I'm a firm believer in self-talk for the vessel. And yes, that includes changing up my diet every so often for sure.
Yeah, especially
with being a human.
Yeah. And I think more people need to get comfortable with the changes within their body and the changes that are required in their diet. We don't like change, but yet there's, 4 seasons a year where there's change. So if you flow with it, it's a lot easier than resisting it.
I agree. I think it's so much more work. And, absolutely, I'm going to want certain things that I know that I shouldn't eat, and I certainly consume them. Trust me when I tell you. But I try to listen to the body. I try to work with my guides when it comes to my body, especially at this age. I'm 54 and I'm in menopause and all the things. So my body, I've intuitively worked with my guides to understand this stage in the game and what my body's doing. It's probably the most in tune I've been in all of my life because I think gratefully have been a healthy person. So I'm like, well, what is this hot mess? So I need to kind of figure that out. And so I use my intuition for all of that for sure. And even if you're not a psychic medium, you should be doing that. Listen to your bodies. They do not lie.
What have you learned about menopause for women and the things that they should be doing that's not talked about in the zeitgeist right now?
I love that there's more conversation about it. There wasn't a lot when my mom was young, that's for sure. Nobody was talking about it. So I think the universe is bringing it to the fore. I always say the divine feminine is loud right now, it's talking on all levels. I think for menopause, again, you have to be your own advocate. and we have to be talking to our practitioners on all levels. I started to ask my guides to give me these words to serve when I sat in my doctor's office, and I just spew out. I say everything that's going on in my body. And I just learned to be my own advocate about it. I think we have to talk about it in ways that aren't just about hot flashes and sleepless nights. I think there's a lot more that goes on for me. It's a lot of body aches. There's a lot of mood change. It's all types of things. And we're talking about HRT in new ways that are safe and effective. And I'm really excited about that. So I'm feeling really good about it. I think women are starting to be heard, and I'm really grateful for that. And for me, just as an intuitive, I went inward with my guides just to understand it. So it led me to spaces like acupuncture again, to not working out as hard as I used to, and understanding that I didn't need to go so hardcore because it was actually hurting my body, and instead just working with heavy weights and a little bit more of a mild cardio, not so hard. So those are things that I've learned. I asked for people to follow, who has the good information out there, so people started popping up on my newsfeed, and I was learning from other women. So it's been, I feel really grateful to kind of be in menopause at this time.
So since you've been doing this work for 17 years, how else are you using it to serve you and your family right now?
Well, I just used it to understand moving. I moved, and the past 2 years have been kind of crazy. I always use it to understand my contracts, my soul contracts. And in the past 4 or 5 years, I've gone into really deep work with soul contracts and really understanding how to work with my guides in a new way, in a co-creative way, and understanding what that means, using techniques and getting downloads from them on how to teach others how to do that. And so that, yes, that includes my personal life a lot. So I have 20 something children now, and I'm learning how to communicate with them in different ways and letting them work out their own contracts without being in on it like I used to be.
Yeah.
Working through my relationship with my husband, who I adore, and ups and downs just like everybody else, and understanding how to facilitate conversations in more productive ways. I use them for everything. They must be exhausted. They have to be, because I don't think there's any part of my life that I'm not using them. But I have to say, I do it so naturally that I really don't think about it a lot. It's just part of my life. I speak to them just like I speak to you. So I'm not doing anything too formal these days. I'm always just talking to them and listening.
So are there questions that myself and the listener can ask throughout the day, whether we're driving our car or we're on our walk or we just walk out, from a workout? What are some questions that we can start asking to our guides throughout the day for clarity, direction, just supportive information?
Depending on the subject, you always want to ask them. A great start with your guides is, what is it that you want me to know in this moment? And I love that question, because stay away from yes or no questions. But what is it that you want me to know in this moment is a conversation starter. And then what you want to do is you want to rely on all of your senses to receive that information. So what are you hearing? What are you seeing within the third eye, maybe? What are you seeing in your mind's eye? What are you feeling? How's that claircognizance, my most favorite clair, that knowing, that deep intuition? I love that one. And where does it sit in the body? Is it giving you angst? Are you feeling super calm? Do you feel a sense of urgency? They're not trying to trick us. They're trying to be very clear in their communication. And then what you want to do is receive that information in whichever way it came to you through those senses, and allow yourself to start the conversation from there. And they are happy to tell you. Your ego is going to get in there and say you're making it up. Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like I'm just talking to myself. Well, on some level, your higher self is being activated. That is what they're doing, because we came here knowing our story. We all signed up. The story's already written. What we're trying to do is understand the lessons that are being presented to us that we ourselves signed up for. And what I tell people is that the experience is probably not something we signed up for. The lesson is, but I think the experience is at the good grace of the universe, because I always say, who would come back? I would feel like, oh,
yeah, we do time and time again.
I mean, we come back over and over again. So allow for yourself to receive that information without chasing it. Just receive it in its moment. The chase is the ego. The chase is the one that wants to get to an answer. What we want to see are the breadcrumbs. If you're looking for direction, you can say, What is my next step? Show me and I will say yes. What is it that I need to do to get to this certain manifestation? Show me and I will say yes. Be very clear that you are an active participant when you're talking with your guides. And then you can even set up a sign. Show me this particular sign. This way I know that we are communicating if you need that extra validation. And then proceed from there. So when you see those breadcrumbs that you've been asking for, you have to say yes to it. But I always tell people too, even seeking validation from the universe is seeking validation outside of self. So what we want to do is remember to go back within. And that's why I always say to people, how does it feel in your claircognizance? What is it feeling in here? That's what's most important. And go with that. That's when you're in a true relationship that is co-creating together. It's not just on them.
So you bring up something that we already know the story that we're supposed to live out. We are deeply aware at some level of the experiences we came to have. Where do you think past lives fall in? And how can that information that some people explore support living in the moment, living out their destiny, their soul's calling?
You know, my mom used to talk to me about past lives when I was a kid, and I would say to her, oh, why do I care about who I've been? I'm here now. I don't have any interest in that. Then I started researching past lives and understanding my own, and I thought, oh, wow, it's incredibly useful. Through past lives, we can see some of the lessons that we're still trying to work on, why we react the way we do, good, bad, or indifferent, some of the wonderful qualities that we continue to carry over, that we continue to sign up for. I'm pretty sure I've been a psychic many times, and I'm sure I've been burned at some sort of stake at some point in one of my lifetimes. And for some reason, I keep choosing it. And we can really start to understand our relationships with others as well, because we travel in soul packs. And those soul packs, we exchange different lessons within each other to help each other out. And when you go exploring into your past lives, and I highly encourage that people do that, it just lends for a broader scope. It gives us more information, the more knowledge, the more power, and the more we deeper understand who we are and who we've been. So to me, it's knowledge, and that allows us to get to work even deeper.
You explained it so perfectly, and I think it helps us see the tools that are in our tool belt. And really trust why you have those natural skills or that instinct or that clear information that always comes to you on particular subjects. It's because you've already mastered that, and you can trust that you are a master at that skill. You don't need to go and do it again. You can just use what you've learned in the past and apply it to what you're here to do now. So
absolutely.
I think it is such a beautiful gift when you choose to lean in and look there.
Yes, Whitney. And you can also see why you're not using them. What is blocking you? Why are you so resistant to surrender? Why are you afraid? What is it that you're carrying over from that past life? I had done a past life regression years ago, and the woman had said to me, this reader said to me, you've often been a woman in life, and you've often been outspoken, which made perfect sense. And she knew me from a hole in the wall. And she said I was beheaded in one of the lifetimes because I just was constantly outspoken. And I could have taken that and said, well, I don't want to be beheaded again. Right? Who wants that? But our past lives are there for observation. They are there to learn from. And instead, I thought, yeah, I'm going to continue to be outspoken. And I'm not going to be then afraid of the outcome any longer if I speak my mind. So to me, there are reasons why they'll take you back. And if your guides are taking you there, oh, please go on the journey. It's fascinating. And usually it makes perfect sense for what is going on in your life in the moment. When I used to read people's past lives, I used to read them kind of in threes, and they always made sense why that particular past life was coming up. It was there to help them understand either relationships that they were in. There's so much work that you can do to free yourself from situations or feelings that are no longer serving you. You can really understand these contracts that we keep repeating. You don't have to relive them because we've already done it. But for observation and information, it's fantastic.
How do you prepare yourself going into the new year or going into the winter season? Are there conversations that you have with your guides or rituals or practices you've set up to kind of support you during the change in season and the change in the new year so you feel like you're always moving forward on your soul path?
Yes, there are. I usually change it up each year, but every year, one thing consistently that I do is I write my not expectations for the year, but my hope for the coming year, because expectations I find leads to disappointment. So I want to go into, and I don't like to be disappointed. So I go into hopefulness because that's the ultimate trust. Like, I'm just hoping. Here's what I'm thinking. And it feels like a download to me. It feels like something that I should be writing. Not necessarily something that I want, but something that spirit is asking me to lean into. And this past year, what I've learned, and I'm going to continue to go into this new year with it, is moving from a scarcity mindset to an abundant mindset. And I think that that's a wonderful way to help yourself manifest in bigger ways. And it feels very natural. It also leads you into spaces of gratitude, which are great because you start to focus on what you do have instead of what you don't have. And then every year, I mean, you could pick a theme too if you want every year. So maybe this is your year of deep surrender. Maybe it's your year of trust. Maybe it's your understanding of flow instead of chase. There's lots of things that you can go in. But for me, it has to feel like an action. It has to feel like something that I'm bringing to the table too.
I agree. I feel like I try to create something where I know I can take physical divine action, but then there's also an element where you have to surrender and know that I'm going to take action, but for it to really move forward, it's going to have to be divine timing, or I'm going to need support from the universe around me to really make it happen. But I feel like those are more like uh, goals that you set or ideas that you want for your life that are a little more reaches, I guess you could say.
You can, go for it. I always tell people, don't put a ceiling on your dreams. Go for it. Write it down. Because somewhere that big feeling within you is there for a reason. In whatever capacity it looks like for whoever is listening, write down that reach if you think it's a reach. And then what you want to do is speak it into existence. You tell the universe, I am ready for that and then some. And then some. Show me and I will say yes, like we have talked about before. So to me, I think that's really beautiful. And then also what I wanted to say to you, because I feel like you would do this too, in the spirit of like collaboration and there's room for all, I always kind of put a wish out for others. And that my hope is that they find their growth, or show me how I can help others grow. Show me what I can share, other people's work that I can share in order to help get the word out.
Yeah,
and I feel like you would absolutely do that too. And so you could put that into your intentions as well, because isn't that a beautiful thing to kind of pay it forward?
It really is. I hope more people in 2026 are able to heal their wounds and find extraordinary happiness with wherever they are in their life.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Yes, I agree. That'd be great.
Right? Because we find that some of the down moments in our life or our interactions during the day really has nothing to do with us. It has to do with the wounds of the people we're interacting with. So, until everyone else eyes will open up a little bit more, they, consciously evolve a little bit more. I just hope more people find the tools that they need to heal whatever it is that's making them suffer.
Me too. Me too. And that's the hope. And you can do that as a collective download too. So instead of asking for an individual download, you can ask for a collective download, which would be something for everyone. And I promise you, Spirit will give you those words. And then, of course, you share them, give them to others.
Is there anything that you do after you work with your students or when you used to work one-on-one with clients to make sure that you aren't holding on to other people's energy, other people's emotions, other people's stuff?
Yeah. So before every reading, I open up. like a storefront. Think of yourself as a storefront for a moment, right? And you just open up. And then at the end of those readings or the end of a group that I do, whatever I'm working on, I absolutely do a shutdown and I close it down. And I'll do a release. So I'll just be grateful to Spirit for allowing me to open up. And then I tell everybody, everyone go home with who you came with. Don't follow me. And my guides also know my boundaries. They know how I work, and I've been very clear with them. And so they come in and they're like, okay, she's done. So everybody, I always hear the stuff for myself. But when I am working for others, I absolutely have open hours and closed hours. I write about that in Medium Mentor. Like if you're looking to be a psychic medium, you have to learn boundaries. You have to learn how to balance that energy, when you should read, when you're closed, and you have to let your guides know how you want to work. They already know, but they're asking you to express the energy so that you are aware and that you can hold true to your boundaries and your technique. Very, very important to shut down and release and rest, replenish.
Is there anything that you do for your home, with your kids' friends coming in and out of the house or other friends coming in and out of the house? Do you have anything that you do to make sure your home is a serene, peaceful place or clean and clear?
Yeah, I mean, I used to smudge it a lot when my kids were teenagers and stuff. They're grown and flown now. But if I feel like we just moved into this place, I'll give you this example. I write about this in the guides book. It was hit by a tornado, my house, and they had to rebuild. Oh yeah, I had a whole dream about it. It's a great story. It's in the book. But I won't say it's a great story. It's an interesting story. I mean, it did get hit by a tornado, but at the end, it's fine. It all worked out. I'm really grateful. Anyway, so when I moved in, I've never done this before in a space, but I felt called to do an offering to the indigenous people that were here on this land before we were. And I have never done that before. And so I did. I just did a meditation. I looked up, who was here. I looked up what they did and what they represented. And I kind of did a little offering to them. I don't know. I just did it my own way. I actually spoke. There's a wonderful psychic medium called Indigenous Sean Leonard. And I asked him for some advice. I'm like, what should I do? How do you want me to go about this? I also envision, instead of smudging, once in a while, I will do this to my home. I envision a large wall of light. And I have that light just push through every area of the house, asking for I never have fear in my spaces, so I just ask for any heavy energy that might be lingering or anything that we feel maybe isn't serving. I don't know, maybe my husband and I had an argument or whatever, and I just want to push that energy out. I always want to do it in an area and not leave it out there so that it doesn't go into my neighbor's house. And so then I ask my guides to just sort of take that with them and transmute it all into just beautiful white light and put that out into the world. So yeah, there's a couple of things that I do, but this year I spiced it up a little bit this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, why not? Palo Santo people use, holy water people use. There's lots of different things that you can use to keep your space clean, so to speak, for lack of a better word. But I always just talk about the house in positive terms, things like that.
Your Italian descent, are there any Italian traditions when it comes to cleaning and clearing a home or yourself spiritually? Or is that something that, isn't really practiced because of people's more religious beliefs?
For my family was a little, I remember I have my great grandmother's rosaries still. And I just think they are full of just beautiful energy. I'm not necessarily sitting there doing the rosary, but I just love having them. So yeah, I think that there's certain little traditions that maybe I can think of. I wear a cello.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. I do that. As far as the home is concerned, not really. There's not much that I do. We just always spoke about like I said, my mom is so spiritual. We kind of just always spoke about it. So I really don't know if it was just her or if it was Italian American stuff. But for me, the rosary was a big deal. She had always draped them over her bed, on the bedpost. And I do that as well. So there was something about having Mary around, having that divine feminine energy around. I was never afraid as a kid, especially in my great grandmother's home. It was just always sort of really peaceful for me because I always felt like it was protected because there was all this kind of, I don't know, Mary imagery around. And so I think if I had to really think about it, maybe Mary. When I sold my house, I buried St. Joseph upside down.
Yeah.
And I did sell the house that way. And then I brought the new Joseph, the statue to my new home. So yeah, I guess I do. I don't think I think about it. I just think it's us. I pray to St. Anthony when something's lost. I mean, there's just things that I do that I think are just automatic. But I didn't grow up in a very religious household. So it was just with my grandmother and my great grandmother that I experienced that.
But it's so interesting. I'm sure the listener will find no matter what spiritual practitioner you study with and where they came from, some of those traditions just hold very true. The work with those saints hold very true no matter where you go in life. And whether it's a rosary or a mandala, there are consistent similarities and traditions throughout the world.
There's so much consistency in certain religions. And I think that what I tell people, because some people grow up with the constraint of organized religion, and that can really bring them to spaces of fear when they're looking to practice as a psychic medium or just make this connection in a different way because they've been taught that it was wrong. I was never taught that it was wrong, so I was really grateful for that. However, I do see it all the time. And what I tell people is try to work with the best of what you were taught and try to undo some of that negativity, deprogram yourself from some of that negativity. And if you can look at all religions, they all have that basis of higher power and love. I mean, really, that's it. It's higher power and love, and that we are being protected and that there is a force that is around us, but that we are in fact made from that light, that we are part of that light. And I think that helps us sort of join in a little bit more. And if deep prayer is your go-to and you want to pray to the saints and that's your jam, it makes you feel really great, do that. And if you want to instead, I don't know, sit outside and do some earthing and allow yourself to feel Mother Nature around you, and that's your thing, do that. What I try to do is grab from all walks of life because I think it's so fascinating, the consistency. And through that, I've created my own belief system, and I hope that people do that for themselves.
Well, where can people continue to learn from you and connect from you? You are a great teacher.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. My website is MaryAnnDiMarco.com, and I am MaryAnn the Medium on social.
Yeah, you are an excellent teacher. I look forward to reading your books. And, I hope if any listener is thinking that this might be a skill that they want to work with and evolve with, you would be an outstanding person to study from.
Thank you so much, Whitney. I appreciate that. And your questions were so thoughtful. I loved our conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, anytime you feel like there's something that you need to share, I would love to be supportive of getting that message out there. Is there maybe one last spiritual or health or wellness tip that the listener can consider adding into their life?
I would say I want to try and make it achievable and sort of easy. And I think that every morning, if you can, try to be grateful for something, mind, body, and soul. So you pick 3 things. Something that you feel grateful for within your body, something that you feel within your soul, and something that just comes to mind. And if you can do that, you start to create this beautiful ripple effect in your life. And hopefully you'll carry that not only through the day, but through your whole time here.
That's a great tip. I think everyone's always looking to refine their morning routine, and it's so easy just to get up and moving, and so easy to kind of bypass a spiritual practice in the morning these days. So thank you.
I agree. Thank you.
I could keep asking you so many questions. I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Whitney. Thanks for having me.